In Dragon Ball Z, Captain Ginyu wasn't around for a very long period of time in the story, with the majority of his appearances taking place during a very short time span in the Frieza arc. However, despite that, he still made an indelible impression upon the fanbase, becoming quite popular with many fans, and being featured in pretty much every video game that has come out since his first appearance, as well as making a surprise yet short-lived return in Dragon Ball Super's Golden Frieza arc. But with that in mind, considering that Captain Ginyu appeared relatively early in the story, many people consider him to be pretty much a weak character at this point. Someone who could be easily swept aside by any of the Z fighters in combat. But what if I told you that Captain Ginyu is actually incredibly underrated, and not only powerful, but one of the most dangerous characters in the entire franchise, who if he was written a certain way, could very easily become the most powerful? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why. But first, make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable all notifications so that you can stay up to date with all my future videos. And if you're a returning subscriber, make sure to check that you're still subscribed, because YouTube often unsubscribes people from this channel, and trust me, it happens a lot more than you think. But first, let's begin by talking about Captain Ginyu's power when he first appeared in the story. Unfortunately for us, at the time, power levels were all the rage in Dragon Ball Z. So we actually have a specific level of power that we can attribute to him, which is 120,000. Now, compared to the power creep of today, where the character's power levels are in the millions, billions, quadrillions, quintillions, sextillions, and googleplexes, 120,000 doesn't seem all that impressive. But when we actually think about it, it's actually a massive power compared to the majority of his universe. Because if you think about it and you look at all the evidence, the truth is that the vast majority of the universe in Dragon Ball, be it Universe 7 or all the others in the multiverse, are actually pretty weak, either not knowing of the existence of or not having the ability to manipulate ki, and if they do, only having a power level in the low hundreds. Even the Saiyan race would fall under this example, with their most powerful surviving warriors only having a 1200 power level for Raditz, a 4000 power level for Nappa, and a power level of 18,000 for Vegeta, before the Namek Crisis began. And of course Goku and his son having a much weaker power level than that before the events of the Saiyan saga. And then we could take a look at the Frieza Force themselves, who are made up of the most powerful warriors of the respective worlds that Frieza conquered throughout the universe. And yet most of them only had a power level in the low thousands, with Frieza's right-hand men, Zarbon and Dodoria, only having a power level in the 20,000s range. Among all of Frieza's warriors, the Ginyu Force were an elite and special squad, who far outranked all of them, with each of the members being able to utterly devastate pretty much everyone before this point in the story, and being so fearsome that Vegeta basically begged Krillin to give him the Dragon Balls so that he could become immortal. And yet Captain Ginyu himself could easily fodderize all of them. Even the main character Goku, with all of his plot power, still needed the Kaioken to stand a chance against Captain Ginyu at full power. And that was after he trained with a divine being like King Kai, and got numerous Zenkai boosts on his way to Namek while mastering 100 times gravity training. And even then, Goku technically never beat him. Now of course, compared to his master Frieza, Ginyu's power isn't really that strong, only being a little bit over 20% of Frieza's power in his most suppressed form, and only 0.01% of Frieza's maximum power of 120 million. However, Captain Ginyu's greatest power is not in his physical strength, but rather his ultimate technique of the change ability, which allows him to swap bodies with anyone he chooses. Something that if Captain Ginyu was written to be more proactive, or if he picked his spots better, could have easily made him the most powerful character in the series. Just think about if Captain Ginyu were to say take over Frieza with that ability, assuming that he actually could. This would instantly make him the most powerful mortal in the universe at that point, and make him basically unstoppable and able to take over the entire universe once he tapped into all Frieza's forms. And that's just if he were to take over Frieza, because let's say that he were to encounter someone even more powerful than Frieza along the way, as he's taking over the universe, like Broly or Deborah. Well again, all he has to do is take over their body as well and he's even more powerful now. And if Babidi were to try and use his magic to take over Captain Ginyu, well, there's a chance that he could just take over his body and stop him, or just grab him by the mouth and take him out just like Boo did. And it doesn't even stop there, because there's a chance that there's no actual limits placed upon who he can take over. So if he were to run into Supreme Kai, Beerus, or even an angel, he could potentially take them over as well. And despite the fact that there might be an adjustment period of him trying to figure out how to use their power, like especially a type of energy like God Ki or the energy of destruction, the power difference between him and his target at that point would be so gigantic it wouldn't even matter. And compared to the other appearance that we saw of him in Dragon Ball Super, it might have just been an issue that was exclusive to Goku. Now remember, Captain Ginyu had survived at this point as a frog for decades, and somehow didn't totally lose his sanity or any hope whatsoever of victory. Instead, he waited for the perfect opportunity and was able to take over Tagoma's body, and was able to instantly master its massive power, which he had attained from training with Frieza for 4 months. The same Frieza who was more powerful than pretty much everyone at that point. And this allowed him to totally stomp Piccolo, who was most likely stronger than Super Perfect Cell at this point, and perhaps even forms of Boo. And it took Gohan, who was even stronger at this point in the series than Piccolo in just his base form, which I discussed in this video here, as well as Vegeta, who trained with an angel and whose base form was so powerful that it could solo everyone in Dragon Ball Z before they could defeat him. So considering the massive difference in power between him and Tagoma, in that he didn't even have an issue taking him over, there's a chance that Captain Ginyu wouldn't have any issue taking over even the gods themselves. And let's be honest, if he was written to be intelligent, he could have taken over Frieza here as well. Unfortunately, he just so happened to appear in a worse remake of a bad movie. Oh, and by the way, poor Tagoma. You were way too good for this arc. But just imagine if Captain Ginyu was used to his full potential as a villain, and if he really had the intelligence to take his ability to its full potential. Or perhaps he waits for the perfect moment and takes over someone like a god of destruction or an angel, and then replaces and pretends to be them, waiting and biding his time until he can take over the strongest ones of all. As perhaps even the Grand Priest or Zeno the Omni King could be vulnerable to this technique. And if all things went well for him, Captain Ginyu would quickly go from a soldier to the top god of them all. Talk about a real rags to riches story. And that doesn't only apply here, as you could take Captain Ginyu's power and take it to other worlds as well, like for instance other anime. As I've discussed before in other videos like this one, most of anime and fiction in general is human level or slightly above that, which means that with his 120,000 power level, Captain Ginyu would easily wreck most fictional characters. This includes many of the most popular anime and manga stories. Naruto, One Piece, JoJo, and Attack on Titan would look upon his power and despair. And the same goes for many heroes and villains in Western comics. And if they're actually stronger, faster, and more durable than him, well, Captain Ginyu can probably just take them over as well. Now, of course, there are some characters who would have an inherent resistance to this, or it likely just wouldn't work on. I doubt that Captain Ginyu could just take over the One Above All or some other kind of super powerful abstract like that. But just based upon what I've talked about in this video, you can now see that his power is in no way small. It all just goes to show you how overpowered the Dragon Ball franchise is, when even a character that you typically think of as weak is actually capable of dominating most of fiction. And that is why Captain Ginyu is underrated. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.